Chapter 717, Definitely be the prettiest. He Jun-ching walked over to Yi Mu-fan, lowered his voice and said in a regretful tone, "Why did you choose this path, eh? Before, I was so kind to invite you over to work for us, but too bad, you don't know what's good for you." He Jun-ching paused and his eyes were filled with delight. "Now, even if you wanted to beg me, I'm afraid it wouldn't be that easy anymore." Yi Mu-fan wasn't in a rush to leave, so he raised his brows slightly. "Beg you?" He Jun-ching recalled being tied up at the graveyard by Yi Mu-fan and his face turned gloomy. "If you kneel down and kowtow to me thrice in front of everybody, I might consider giving you another chance." Yi Mu-fan was about to speak when his phone started ringing. It was a call from Yi Wan-wan. Yi Mu-fan took one look at it and immediately felt guilty. He wasn't in the mood to bicker anymore, so he jogged to a corner where there was no one around and answered the call. Everyone saw how anxious Yi Mu-fan was and immediately started mocking him. "Since this person has been fired by Assembly of Stars, what on earth is he doing here? Look at him behaving like a thief, he must have snuck in. This great young master isn't good at anything but is an expert in engaging in all sorts of illicit trading. Where's security? Are they doing their job or not?" He Jun-ching pretended to be generous and patted the other party's shoulders. Forget it, we were all colleagues once. Head stylist how could you speak up for someone like him?" Everybody saw that He Jun-ching was trying to ease the tension. With the ceremony starting soon, everyone was busy with preparations and simply let this pass. Arguing with garbage like him is simply a waste of time. On stage, the host spoke with enthusiasm. "Good evening, distinguished guests. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming. The 13th annual Grand Fashion Ceremony shall officially begin. In accordance with past practices, other than networking with people in the industry, the highlight of the ceremony was having various renowned stylists showcasing the work they were most pleased with to date." In the audience, Shen Mengqi glanced at He Jun-ching who was seated next to her. "Yi Mu-fan showed up tonight. Is he looking for trouble with us, huh?" After all, He Jun-ching was using Yi Mu-fan's design as the work he was going to showcase, so would Yi Mu-fan let that slide? When He Jun-ching heard her, he was completely fearless and sniggered. "Him? Meng-chi, you think too highly of that garbage. Let's not talk about him. If he really was that dumb to seek that road to death, this is the perfect occasion to make trouble for us. I'll make sure he won't be able to continue working in this industry." Shen Mengqi also thought she was worrying too much. She simply shrugged and didn't speak anymore. "I'll go backstage to prepare." "Go on, baby, you'll definitely be the prettiest tonight." The music started playing and on stage, famous works of various stylists that allowed them to reach the pinnacle of their careers appeared one after another. The models were all showcasing their beauty, displaying the magnificent view of 100 flowers blooming in the fashion world. In the middle seat at the front row, the chairperson of the Fashion Association was seated. On his right was Director Zheng while his left side was empty. At this moment, Mu Wenqing, who was over 50 years old and dressed in a formal suit, was focused on looking at everyone's masterpieces. After seeing Shen Mengqi's appearance on stage, his eyes had an obvious hint of astonishment. "Not bad." Director Zheng chimed in quickly, "Yes, not bad. Chairperson Mu, do you find that He Jun-ching's style seems quite similar to our vice-chairperson's in some ways, huh?" Chapter 718, Misappropriation of Work. Mu Wenqing shook his head. Compared to Mu-fan, there's still a big difference. Director Zheng knew how much this chairperson admired the newly appointed vice-chairperson and quickly said, "Of course. They have similar styles, but He Jun-ching's work seems much more amateur." Mu Wenqing turned to the empty seat next to him. "Where's Mu-fan? Why isn't he here yet?" "He got into an accident on the way and he's dealing with it now. He'll be here later." "What? An accident?" Mu Wenqing knitted his brows. Director Zheng hurriedly explained, "Chairperson, don't panic. He's all right but his car was slightly damaged. I'll go to the entrance to meet him right away." Director Zheng's temporary departure didn't cause any commotion. The second Shin Meng Chi appeared on stage, compliments could be heard everywhere and the audience started clapping. Truly, this is the best work of head stylist he. It's really amazing. This creativity, this idea, no ordinary person could come up with it. Even Chairperson Mu nodded in approval just now. He Junqing basked in all this inflated praise giddily. All of you are flattering me, it's just a minor achievement not worth mentioning. Right at this moment. Amidst the praise, there was a sudden voice, TSK, since when did the standards of the Fashion Association drop so low? Even this shameless person's stolen work could be openly displayed on stage and receive the admiration of everyone? The man's voice was a little cynical and full of sarcasm. As this questioning voice was so sudden, everyone went silent for a second. He Jun Cheng's gleeful expression froze on his face. His expression darkened as he turned to the side. He saw Yi Mu Fan standing there with his hair still a mess and his clothes crumpled. Yi Mu Fan curled his lips and stood there calmly. Yi Mu Fan. He actually dared to mess with us. Good, very good. He Junqing didn't have to speak up at all, someone else already started yelling on his behalf. Where did this wretched-looking beggar come from, eh? How dare he bring down the reputation of the Fashion Association and even accuse our stylist of being a thief? Not many had seen Felix's face, and looking at Yi Mu Fan's sloven appearance, nobody respected him obviously. Who is this guy? Why does he look so familiar? Don't you know? He's the great young master of Yi Group, Crown Prince of Emperor Sky Entertainment, Yi Mu Fan. Damn! That ignorant bum. What's he doing here? I heard he used to do odd jobs for He Junqing and was fired. He probably has a grudge, so he's here to cause trouble. This is ridiculous. When everyone was almost done insulting Yi Mu Fan, He Junqing stood up and said casually, "Young Master Yi, you were chased out of your house and was living on the streets before, so our big missy pitied you and decided to take you in, allowing you to work for me. But since you didn't have any talents and refused to work properly, I had no choice but to let you go. After all, the company needs to make profits and we can't afford to pay idlers. Who knew that not only were you unremorseful, but you even came here to insult me?" He Junqing pretended to be heartbroken while Yi Mu Fan remained silent. He simply stood there and watched his act. Oh. I have no talents. Then who has talents, huh? Is it you, great stylist He? The person who only knows how to copy someone else's work? He Junqing was waiting for him to say this and sniggered, "Young Master Yi, you accuse me of stealing someone else's work. Why don't you tell us whose work I've stolen?" Chapter 719, Who did you say he is? Yi Mu Fan crossed his arms and spoke without thinking, "Mine, obviously." Pfft, ha. What did this garbage just say? The second Yi Mu Fan said that the designers scattered around. He Junqing immediately burst out laughing. Yi Mu Fan, is there something wrong with your head? Our head stylist He stole your work. Who do you think you are? The head stylist of Assembly of Stars Entertainment stealing the work of a nobody. You really know how to put feathers in your own cap, huh? He Junqing didn't have to say anything at all. Everyone else's ridicule was enough to drown out Yi Mu Fan. Hey! Where's the security? Is this how they work? How could they simply let someone in without an invitation? And they even let him cause a ruckus here. Exactly. Why aren't they chasing him out yet? The commotion was getting bigger and very soon, the staff members were alerted. May I know what's going on here? A girl in formal attire rushed over anxiously. After seeing Yi Mu Fan, her eyes glistened. Director Zheng has been looking. Before the girl could finish her sentence, she was interrupted by the stylist with long hair. This guy barged in without an invitation and caused trouble because he's jealous of our head stylist He even accused him of stealing his work. How do you guys do your job? Do you even care? People around them who didn't know what was going on were watching the commotion and whispering into each other's ears. What? He's here to cause trouble. Jealous of head stylist He, the staff member was puzzled and didn't understand what happened at all. The long-haired man looked very stern and said firmly, "That's right. If you don't believe me, check and see whether he has an invitation. Forget it. He Junqing acted like he was very generous and forgiving. In order to curry favor with He Junqing, the long-haired guy spoke in a righteous tone. How could you just let this go? This scum of the fashion world actually had the audacity to pass through the doors of our fashion association. He's tarnishing the name of the association. When the staff member heard that, her face was somewhat indescribable. The way she looked at He Junqing and the others was as if she was looking at strange beings. Indeed, this gentleman here doesn't have an invitation. The long-haired guy became excited immediately and said happily, told ya. What did he offer you that you were actually convinced to let him in? The staff member was slightly angered by this person's aggressive attitude. She glanced coldly at He Junqing and the others, then explained, loud and clear, this gentleman here is our fashion association's vice chairperson. He is the host and organizer for today's grand fashion ceremony, so naturally, he didn't need an invitation. Do any of you have an issue with this? The entire place fell into a dead silence. The long-haired guy's smile froze on his face and He Junqing's eyes constricted instantly as he lifted his head and glared at Yi Mu Fan. On stage, Shen Mengqi was watching the show calmly and her body stiffened up immediately. Her delicate little face turned white and she looked at Yi Mu Fan in complete disbelief. What did that woman just say? Vice chairperson of the Fashion Association. Yi Mu Fan. At this moment, He Junqing, who had finally regained his senses, spoke with much difficulty. What did you just say? Who did you say he was? The staff member rolled her eyes at him. Our newly appointed vice chairperson of the Fashion Association, Mr. Felix. He's the guy you accused of barging in without an invitation and tarnishing the name of the Fashion Association. Everyone. Chapter 720, Paranoia. He Junqing swallowed hard and was completely dumbfounded. How could this be? Yi Mu Fan is Felix. This is impossible. There must be a mistake somewhere. Just as everyone looked at each other in confusion, Director Zheng rushed over. Damn! My great vice chairperson, I've finally found you. Why didn't I see you at the entrance just now? I've already prepared your outfit, so hurry, get changed. Director Zheng probably sensed something strange about the atmosphere, so he asked, What? What happened? Oh, right, head stylist weren't you looking for our vice chairperson? Here he is. He then turned to Yi Mu Fan and said, Felix, this is head stylist from Assembly of Stars Entertainment, and on stage is Miss Shen Mengqi from Assembly of Stars. They would like to speak to you about working together for the Lorraine Fashion Week. Yi Mu Fan casually pulled off a blade of grass from his sleeve. Oh, is that so? At this current moment, He Junqing and Shen Mengqi wanted to die. When they heard what Director Zheng said, they really wished to bury their heads deep into the ground. Director Zheng already clarified it, they had to believe it no matter how unwilling they were. Just now, Director Zheng said Felix had an accident on the way there, which was why Yi Mu Fan was in this state, so the mighty gold medal expert stylist, Felix, whom they were racking their brains over to think of a way to hire, was actually that garbage, Yi Mu Fan. Darn it, what exactly is going on here? Yi Mu Fan had been kicked out of Emperor Sky. How was it possible that he could reach this level in such a short period of time? Shen Mengqi stood on stage and glared at He Junqing ferociously. Yi Mu Fan is Felix, how could he not know something so important? He Junqing was at a loss. How could he have possibly known Felix and Yi Mu Fan were the same person? However, the worst was yet to come. In front, the chairperson of the Fashion Association, Mu Wenqing, strode over with a rigid expression. Mu Fan, you said He Junqing stole your work just now, what do you mean? Yi Mu Fan glanced at Mu Wenqing. Teacher, it's nothing major, but not long ago, I lost a manuscript and to my surprise, it was picked up by head stylist He. Hearing that, the cold sweat on He Junqing's forehead almost started dripping. This is a misunderstanding, if this was confirmed to be true, everything would be over for him. He Junqing panicked. He decided not to admit to the truth no matter what, and he retorted instantly, "What manuscript are you talking about? There's no such thing, this is my very own design. Chairperson, you must believe me." He Junqing gradually became more confident when he realized Yi Mu Fan didn't have any evidence at all. "Young Master Yi, you said this was your design, so could you please provide some evidence, huh? When did you lose the manuscript? And where did you lose it? What now? Can't provide any proof, right?" Yi Mu Fan chuckled. "Ha, evidence? My memory isn't too good. I really can't recall all these irrelevant details." Head stylist He, "Are you saying that I'm framing you, that I'm jealous of your talents and abilities, so I'm trying to slander your name and take ownership of your work?" He Junqing was stunned by what Yi Mu Fan said. It shed light on the situation, and the crowd starting looking at He Junqing doubtfully. He's got to be kidding, a vice chairperson of the Fashion Association cum award winner of the 100 Flowers Award being jealous of him? Is He Junqing paranoid? He Junqing was flustered and he started to ramble, "Yi Mu Fan, you and your poisonous slander. All this work is mine. They're my designs. You're accusing me without any evidence, so I could also say that you're stealing my work." Chapter 721, Switched personality. Within seconds Yi Mu Fan acted graciously and like he didn't mind at all. "Hey head stylist He, don't panic, I was just speaking my mind and didn't plan on making you take responsibility for this incident. It's just a design. I can give you over 10 of mine in a day. Since you like it so much, I'll give it to you then. It's no big deal, we were once colleagues anyway, so I don't mind giving you another manuscript if you want." Why you, He Junqing was so mad that he nearly spewed out blood. Yi Mu Fan said he didn't mind, but he didn't have any evidence at all, yet he managed to stick the label of stealing his work onto He Junqing. Also, with his current status, everybody would naturally believe what he said. Oh my god, I really didn't expect He Junqing to be someone like that, picking up someone's manuscript and calling it his own. Exactly. How could he act so brazenly just because the other party doesn't have any evidence, huh? He actually said Felix stole his work. Shameless. The crowd who had spoken up for He Junqing just seconds earlier already shifted priorities completely. They were all mocking He Junqing the way they ridiculed Yi Mu Fan a while ago. He Junqing and Yi Mu Fan were akin to a beggar and a millionaire. A beggar accusing the millionaire of stealing his money. Would anyone believe this? Yi Mu Fan looked at He Junqing, who was attacked from all sides till he had no rebuttal, and a cold light flashed in his eyes. TSK, so what if I was just spouting random nonsense? With my current status, do I still need any evidence to mess with him? Anyway, with what Yi Mu Fan said today, He Junqing's professional career could be considered destroyed already. This was because nobody knew how many designs were in the aforementioned manuscript. Whether He Junqing's future designs would be from the stolen manuscript or created by him, nobody would know. As for Shen Mengqi, who was wearing the stolen design, her future wasn't any better. This chairperson, Mu Wenqing, was obviously on Yi Mu Fan's side, and he was also a very protective person. He immediately struck He Junqing's name off the Fashion Association and called security to chase him out. The other stylists from Assembly of Stars were ashamed as well, and they silently left one after another. Shen Mengqi looked like a fool. She stood on the stage in a daze, and not a single person helped her out of this embarrassing situation. She held on to a glimmer of hope and looked towards Yi Mu Fan. Although this man was vain and frivolous, he was devoted to protecting her, and each time something happened to her, he was the first to appear. However, this time, Yi Mu Fan didn't even glance at her once the entire time. The man was completely surrounded by groups of people going up to him. She couldn't even see the back of his head. Ha, with pleasure, with pleasure. Yi Mu Fan was busy socializing like a fish back in the water when he caught sight of a familiar figure walking towards him. He was so shocked he nearly spat out his wine. My boss is here, I've got to go. Please make way. Yi Mu Fan hurriedly passed his glass to a staff member nearby, then rushed over, seeing how Yi Mu Fan had switched personalities within a second. Director Jing said helplessly, "Why do I find that each time our vice chairperson sees Director Yi, he behaves like a mouse seeing a cat?" The staff member didn't know whether to laugh or cry. That's true, usually, Felix can be quite arrogant. He won't give anyone face whenever he's in a bad mood, but with just one word from Director Yi and he'll obey instantly. Where did this Director Yi from Dazzling come from? He has so many great experts under his control. Chapter 722, Too Biased. In the little garden, Yi Mu Fan didn't have the time to change outfits. The guilt on his face was unconcealable. "BBB boss." Yi Wanwan scanned him from head to toe. "What happened?" Yi Mu Fan was very obedient and confessed instantly. "Wanwan, I'm sorry. I made a mistake. Although I did drive a little faster, it was the other party's fault. He was driving in the opposite direction. So the car is damaged. Are you injured?" Yi Wanwan frowned. "Just some abrasions," Yi Mu Fan replied weakly. "Yi Wanwan, as long as you're fine, it's all right. Never mind that the car is damaged." Wanwan, Yi Mu Fan was teary-eyed when he realized his sister wasn't scolding him. Previously, Yi Wanwan really was too strict with him, which made him so submissive whenever he saw her now. "Have you settled that issue with He Jun Cheng?" Yi Wanwan asked. Yi Mu Fan grinned. "Don't worry, it's settled. That guy even asked me for evidence just now." "Ha, what a joke." Yi Mu Fan looked at his sister and his eyes lit up. "Wanwan, you were right, as long as one has authority, justice can be sought at any time." Actually, there was a period of time when he was filled with hatred, felt that heaven was unfair and felt embittered. After all credit for his efforts was taken by someone else, which nearly caused him to be psychologically imbalanced. Finally, it was Wanwan's words that helped him settle down and focus all his energy on his work. When Yi Wanwan heard that, she looked at Yi Mu Fan in such high spirits and felt a warmth in her heart. "That's good. Let's go home together for dinner tonight." Yi Mu Fan, "All right." That night, Yi Wanwan and Yi Mu Fan returned home to a table full of dishes prepared by Liang Wanjun. "Xiaoting, don't drink so much." Yi Xiaoting was all smiles. "It's okay, it's a joyous day today." Seeing Wanwan becoming more sensible and even Mu Fan stabilizing with his career taking off, there was a gratified feeling in his heart that was indescribable. This sense of gratification was incomparable to any of his past achievements. "It's Daddy's fault for making the two of you suffer so much." Yi Xiaoting knew very well how challenging the future would be for his two children. Yi Wanwan replied sweetly, "Dad, what nonsense. You're the best father in the world. If it wasn't for her, her dad would never be in this state today." In this industry where only benefits mattered, blood relations and love weren't even worth a mention. There weren't many who would do the same as Yi Xiaoting, giving up everything for the sake of his children. Yi Xiaoting looked at his daughter lovingly, but when he looked at his son, his face instantly turned rigid. "Rascal, when will you ever change this impulsive character of yours? How many times have I told you to drive slower, drive slower? You haven't listened to me at all. Look at you. You've damaged such an expensive car. How much did it cost?" Yi Mu Fan held his head when he heard his father's scolding. "Here we go again." Yi Wanwan hurriedly said, "Daddy, it's the other party's fault for drunk driving, not Gigi's fault. Anyway, we can just get another car if it's damaged. That model is a little dated already, and with Gigi's current status, it's time for a change." Yi Xiaoting nodded. Wanwan's right." Yi Mu Fan, tears flowed down Yi Mu Fan's face. "Dad, you're too biased, I say something 100 times and it's pointless, but when Wanwan says something once, you agree instantly." Chapter 723, I Am the One with Ulterior Motives. Liang Wanjun laughed and shook her head. Her eyes were filled with gratitude as she looked at her son and daughter. Sitting and joking around together as a family like this was something she didn't even dare to imagine before. Liang Wanjun seemed to have remembered something when her face darkened slightly and she said hesitantly, "Oh right, Xiaoting, Mom called yesterday and asked Mu Fan and Wan to go over to the old residence for a meal when they're free." After hearing what Liang Wanjun said, Yi Mu Fan's face turned frosty. "What for? I'm not going." Yi Wan glanced at Yi Mu Fan plainly and said, "Mu Fan's quite busy lately, he probably doesn't have time to go over. Maybe next month." "Go, remember to get Grandpa and Grandma some gifts these next few days, pick something nice." Yi Mu Fan had a change in his tone instantly. "Oh, got it." Liang Wanjun couldn't help but burst out in laughter. Yi Mu Fan was just complaining that his father only listened to Wan, but he was doing the same thing too. Although the two elders would never change their opinions of her, she didn't want Wan and Mu Fan to be implicated. With Mu Fan's character, he would easily be taken advantage of by Yi Yi and her mother. Thankfully, Wan could help advise Mu Fan, so Liang Wanjun was much more at ease. Looking at her daughter becoming prettier and more sensible, the feeling in Liang Wanjun's heart felt sweeter than honey and she asked caringly, "Wan, how are things between you and Ajio?" In order to reassure her parents, Yi Wan nodded repeatedly. We're great. School holidays are coming up and we're preparing to travel." When Yi Mu Fan heard that, his face tensed up instantly. "Just the two of you?" "No way. I'm going as well." "No." Yi Wan rejected him directly. Yi Mu Fan became stern. "Wan, you're too naive, traveling alone with him. That guy must have some ulterior motive." Yi Wan looked disapprovingly at him. "Yes, of course there is an ulterior motive, but I am the one with the ulterior motive, so you aren't allowed to come along." Yi Mu Fan, ugh. Driving me mad. The next day, the incident at the grand fashion ceremony was reported by the media with added oil and vinegar. 1. Both the media and public were on Yi Mu Fan's side. He was talented, handsome and occupied a high post, so why would he bother to tarnish a nobody's name? Since he wasn't trying to tarnish He Jun Cheng's name, that meant it was a fact. At the office, Yi Wan was flipping through a pile of documents about identifying precious stones when a knock came at the door. "Come in." Director Yi. Upon seeing who it was, Yi Wan's eyes flashed subtly. "Man Zhu, take a seat. Is something the matter?" Meeting the man's eyes, Shen Manju blushed a little and stood there hesitating for a long while before she finally said shyly, "That, Director Yi. Felix, did he help me pass something to you?" Yi Wan's fingers lightly rapped against the shiny desk and said, "Your number." Shen Manju's face turned redder and she whined, "I've been waiting all night and didn't get any call." "Director Yi, do you dislike me that much?" Yi Wan coughed lightly and pinched her brows. She wasn't very experienced at rejecting girls. Obviously, it was also impossible for her to have any experience with that. It was simpler with men, she could just speak her mind without any psychological barriers, but this other party now was a cute and delicate girl. Once she put herself in her shoes and thought about it, it would truly be too ruthless to reject her directly. Chapter 724, Hubby, look here. Yi Wan thought long and hard about her rejection speech and finally said, "Man Zhu, you're a great girl." Shen Manju felt worse. "Don't give me that CR*P. Yi Wan, at this current moment, the entrance of dazzling media was surrounded by fans. A 7-seater car stopped at the entrance and a youth in a black western suit stepped out of the car. Luo Chen had always been fond of dressing himself up in campus-style clothes and appearing in white shirts and jeans. Ever since Yi Mu Fan had taken over, Luo Chen's style had started to shift towards a more mature style of dress. He was currently dressed in a classic uniform, causing his fans' blood to boil. Ah. Luo Chen, Luo Chen, Luo Chen. Luo Chen, I love you. My only love, my Chen. The stars, one, will never fall. Hubby, look here. Ever since Terrifying Dragon 2 aired, Luo Chen experienced a burst in fame and directly entered the ranks of A-list newbies. While the fans were screaming continuously, another person stepped out of the seven-seater car. Gong Su still had his cherry blossom pink messy hair, but his style had totally been transformed by Yi Mu Fan. He was no longer wearing those blinding neon colors and was more focused on taste and character. He was still arrogant and unruly, but he was no longer so brainless and non-conforming who attracted a large batch of fans who cared only about an artist's looks. Gong Su straightened his collar and was upset. TSK, fans these days are lacking in class, huh? What's so nice about a face with facial paralysis? After speaking, he smiled and greeted his fans. Hi, his smile was even more dazzling than the sun. His little canine tooth was explosively adorable and carried a hint of seduction. Gong Su. Too cute. I want to make babies with you. Oh God. I'm going to faint. After receiving some enthusiastic shrieks from his fans, Gong Su was finally satisfied. You two ancestors. Come in quickly. Otherwise, security won't be able to hold them back anymore. Xiaoqing and Dong Zai hurriedly ushered these two people into the company building. Gong Su and Luo Chen looked at each other but didn't speak at all. They took the private lift together. Gong Su didn't like knocking before he entered. When they arrived at the door of Yi Wanwan's office, he directly pushed the door open. Yi Ji, I'm back. In the next second, everyone at the door saw Shen Man Zhu and Yi Wanwan hugging. Gong Su, Luo Chen, 4 pairs of eyes looked at each other in dismay. Sorry for interrupting. Gong Su was the fastest to return to his senses and he slammed the door shut immediately. Oh, damn, that's exciting. The moment the door was shut, Gong Su began howling and attempted to peep through the gap of the door excitedly. Behind him, Luo Chen furrowed his brows and obviously disapproved of Gong Su's behavior. Sensing Luo Chen's contemptuous gaze on him, Gong Su rolled his eyes at him. PSH. Bloody fake, stop pretending. Don't you want to know what's going on inside? My curiosity's exploding. Damn. What's going on? Isn't Yi Ji gay? Why would he and Shen Man Zhu, HM? At the same time, in the office, Yi Wanwan was extremely troubled. She didn't even have to think to know how Gong Su would misunderstand what he just saw. Actually, nothing happened just now. Shen Man Zhu was a little emotional after being rejected by her, so she pounced on her for a hug. She wasn't prepared for this at all. Who'd have known that at this very moment, Gong Su would suddenly push the door open. 1. Stars in Chinese is Xing Chen, so that's why one of Luo Chen's fans chanted that phrase. Chapter 725, The Type of Girls He Likes. Sorry. Did I cause trouble for you? Shen Man Zhu was apologetic. Don't worry, I'll explain. Yi Wanwan handed her a piece of tissue. After some time, Shen Man Zhu came out of the office. Gong Su was anxiously waiting and once he saw her walking out, he acted like a robber and pulled her to a quiet corner. I didn't know Shen Man Zhu has a crush on Yi Ji, Shen Man Zhu had just gotten rejected, so she was in a bad mood and glared at him. Can't I? Sure, of course you can. My Yi Ji is so dashing that even I was moved. It's very normal for you to have a crush on him. So how's the progress? Gong Su tried fishing for juicy gossip. Shen Man Zhu's face fell. Just by looking at her expression, he knew things hadn't gone well. Director Yi isn't interested in women at all. Gong Su, hearing Shen Man Zhu's complaining, Gong Su thought, of course, because he likes men, silly. Gong Su's eyes shifted. He seemed to have thought of something as he revealed a sinister smile. That's a good sign. Now that there are more and more chicks falling for Yi Ji, there's a chance of pulling him back, right? I really dislike that man with an eerie aura. He's not compatible with Yi Ji at all. With that thought, Gong Su turned to Shen Man Zhu and asked sincerely, Manju, do you know how to win Yi Ji over? The dejected Shin Manju immediately looked at him. You have a way. Gong Su patted his chest and said proudly, of course. I'm the most favored artist working with Yi Ji. I know what he likes. Luo Chen, Gong Su stared at Luo Chen and exclaimed, what? Do you have something to say? He looked like he wouldn't accept a rebuttal even if Luo Chen disagreed with what he said. Luo Chen glanced at him plainly, unconcerned. However, he turned towards Gong Su subconsciously and wanted to know the answer as well. What Yi Ji likes? I really have no idea. What types of girls does Yi Ji like? Quick, tell me. Shin Manju urged him impatiently. Gong Su swept his gaze over her and said leisurely, tell me how you chased him first. Shin Manju's face reddened once again. I got Felix to pass my number to him, Gong Su, then what else? Shin Manju, then I kept waiting for his call but in the end, I didn't get anything, so I came over to see him this morning. Gong Su, who was waiting for something juicier, blinked and was disappointed. That's all? Nothing else? Shin Manju stomped her feet. Yes. What else do you want? It already took me a lot of guts to ask Felix to pull some strings for me, okay? Gong Su sighed and kept shaking his head. This won't do. You're not doing it right at all. Do you know what types of girls Yi Ji likes? Bullshit. Obviously I don't, which is why I'm asking you. Are you going to tell me or not? Stop beating around the bush. Shin Manju said, displeased. Come over. I'll tell you. Gong Su beckoned her with his index finger. Shin Manju immediately leaned over. Gong Su dragged his words and said mysteriously, let me tell you, Yi Ji likes girls who are unrestrained, the more unrestrained, forward and open, the better. Shin Manju, Luo Chen, who acted like he didn't care but was eavesdropping, Shin Manju was stunned for a second and asked doubtfully, you, sure? Judging by director Ye's character, he should prefer the sweet, cute, innocent and reserved type, right? Chapter 726, Why is she here again? Gong Su said firmly, wrong. Completely wrong. That's why you failed. Get it? Shin Manju wasn't fully convinced. Really? Gong Su spoke matter-of-factly, absolutely. So be bold and go get him. Seeing how certain Gong Su was and considering that he was one of the artists closer to Yi Bai, Shin Manju finally believed him and looked enlightened. I always thought Yi Ji liked someone more reserved, but now I know, hee, you don't need me to tell you. I'll give you a big red packet if I succeed. Shin Manju looked as if she was enlightened with infinite wisdom. You're welcome, you're welcome. After Shin Manju left, Luo Chen knitted his brows and glanced at Gong Su. What nonsense are you talking about? Gong Su rolled his eyes. What do you mean nonsense? How do you know Yi Ji doesn't like girls who are unrestrained? Luo Chen, who wanted to speak but couldn't refute his words, even though he was Yi Ji's artist and Yi Ji knew him very well, he didn't know much about Yi Ji at all. After all the gossip, Gong Su finally pushed the door open and entered the office. Yi Ji, your luck with women isn't bad, huh? Yi Wanwan glanced at Gong Su's despicable face and threw a stack of newspapers at him. On the cover was another piece of gossip about Gong Su and another female star. Gong Su didn't dare to be cheeky anymore. He wailed loudly, Yi Ji, I'm innocent. This time, it was that woman who had malicious intentions to freeload on my popularity. I'm very picky, okay? How could I fancy someone like her? That night, at Pearl River Regal Riviera. Yi Wanwan glanced at the stack of documents about identifying precious stones on the coffee table, then tossed aside the thick pile of documents Si Yihan prepared for her. She told her parents before that she was going on a holiday, but in reality, she was going to Myanmar by herself. Her first task as part of the C Corporation was to procure raw stones. This was her very first assignment as the future mistress of the household, so it was extremely important. However, she couldn't guarantee a definite return from gambling in stones, even if she was an expert, much less a beginner who was desperately cramming all the relevant knowledge. However, she still chose this risky task. Yi Wanwan was in deep thought when suddenly, there was someone at the door again. Si Han is here so quickly. Yi Wanwan quickly got up to open the door. In the end, the moment she pulled open the door, she realized the person wasn't Si Han but Shin Man-ju. Man-ju, upon seeing her, Yi Wanwan was somewhat taken aback. Thankfully, she hadn't changed out of her male disguise. But what's she doing here at this hour? Director Yi, may I come in? Shin Man-ju was dressed in an oversized black coat and was completely wrapped up. Please come in. After she entered, Yi Wanwan poured a glass of water for Shin Man-ju. Man-ju, why are you here at this hour? Is there something urgent? Shin Man-ju seemed a little nervous. She gulped down half the glass of water. When she recalled Gong Su's advice, she didn't drag things on and immediately got straight to the point. Yi Ji, can't you give me a chance? Yi Wanwan was stunned. So she hasn't given up. But I already made things so clear today, why is she here again? A hint of suspicion flashed across Yi Wanwan's face and she said patiently, Man-ju, you should know my principles. Chapter 727, Please keep your clothes on. Shin Man-ju nodded continuously. I know. Everyone in the industry knows you wouldn't get involved with an artist under your care. Yi Ji, don't get me wrong, I don't mean it that way. I don't need you to give me any resources or whatsoever, and I also don't want you to break any unspoken rules for me. I'm very innocent, very pure. Although Shin Man-ju didn't say it out loud, Yi Wanwan understood what she meant. She didn't want to play with the unspoken rules and merely wanted to have sex with him. Very pure indeed. After saying her piece, Shin Man-ju took a deep breath and stood up slowly. Then she placed her hands on the sash of her coat. Director Yi, when Yi Wanwan saw this, she furrowed her brows and suddenly had a bad feeling. All she saw in the next second was Shin Man-ju pulling her sash and opening her coat. Shin Man-ju wasn't wearing anything inside, just very sexy, provocative lingerie. Yi Wanwan, it was as if Yi Wanwan had a tsunami in her brain all of a sudden. Damn! Aren't you a bit too forward, huh? She was so reserved in the day but at night, she suddenly transformed. Why is she so bold and unrestrained all of a sudden? What happened exactly? Despite how calm and collected Yi Wanwan was, she was completely flabbergasted and began coughing violently. Just as Yi Wanwan's brain was buzzing from the shock, there was a click at the door at the front door, there was the sound of the door unlocking, then came a pair of familiar footsteps. Shit! I'm dead. There was only one person who would come over at this hour who had keys to her apartment. When Yi Wanwan finally regained her senses, it was too late. Si Han had already made his way in and seen the situation in the living room. Yi Wanwan, but the second Si Han saw the scene, his eyes constricted instantly and his face turned ugly. And Yi Wanwan picked up the blanket next to her and threw it over Shin Man-ju at the fastest speed in her life. After that, she charged towards Si Han like an arrow and covered his eyes with her hands. Close your eyes. At this moment, Shin Man-ju realized someone had entered the house and she screamed in terror. The living room was in complete chaos. Bloody hell, what's going on here? Yi Wanwan was tense. She stared at Si Han and didn't allow him to open his eyes while speaking to Shin Man-ju. Man-ju, put your clothes on properly and leave right now. This is my friend and he won't say a word about this. Shin Man-ju was shy and embarrassed at the same time but still remembered Gong Su's advice. Director Yi. I really like you, hey, please stop talking, I'm begging you. Fortunately, Shin Man-ju was apprehensive since there was someone else in the room and didn't speak anymore. She got dressed and left swiftly. Shen Manju finally left. Yi Wanwan almost collapsed. There were layers of cold sweat on her back. A few seconds later, Yi Wanwan lifted her eyes and saw Si Han still standing near the door with his eyes tightly shut. When Yi Wanwan thought about what Si Han might have seen just now, she wasn't even afraid of him anymore but was furious instead. Hence, she stomped towards him. Yi Han. How could you simply have come in without knocking? Even if you have the keys, you should at least knock first. You saw it, didn't you? You must have seen it. How much did you see? Ugh, I'm so mad. Chapter 728, You Were All I Saw. Si Han opened his eyes. You're not allowed to open your eyes. I'm still mad. Yi Wanwan immediately yelled. Actually, although Yi Wanwan was just being paranoid, she still felt somewhat uncomfortable when she thought about what Si Han might have seen. Si Han closed his eyes once again and said expressionlessly, "Put those dirty thoughts away, I didn't see anything." Yi Wanwan pouted. Liar. You obviously saw it. If he didn't see anything, why did he look so terrifying just now? He's obviously lying while looking straight at me. Oh, wrong, his eyes are shut. The way Si Han stood there with his eyes shut really caused her to be lost in wild thoughts. Yi Wanwan was entertaining the ridiculous thoughts in her head. After some time, Si Han suddenly spoke up. I didn't, you were all I saw. Actually, he should be the mad one since he saw a woman at Yi Wanwan's house in this manner at this hour. In the end, this girl turned the tables and accused him first. Also, that nervous little face immediately made all his anger dissipate. This was the very first time she was jealous. Even when he knew this might be her tactic of getting out of trouble and he wasn't sure if she was just pretending to be angry, his heart couldn't help but feel moved by her. Hearing that, Yi Wanwan was shocked. Whoa, you actually used some words of endearment. I can't see anybody else except you. What an accomplishment. Alright then, since it's the first time Si Han said something so direct and sweet, I'll give him some face. Yi Wanwan was about to act gracious and forgiving, but in the next second, she saw Si Han opening his eyes. His cold and threatening gaze landed on her face. So, explain. Yi Wanwan looked at the great devil who had suddenly turned hostile and started his interrogation. Really? I can only be moved for less than a second. Yi Wanwan didn't dare to move at all as she stood there, struggling. Baby, you won't get jealous even with women, right? Si Han's expression already gave the answer to her question, there's nothing he wouldn't be jealous of. Yi Wanwan tried to reason things out with him. You can't blame me for this. I swear I've already rejected her today and I don't know why she changed tactics all of a sudden. Anyway, I don't have that function, what can I do with her even if she seduced me? Also, because you were rude and didn't know, you saw another woman's body, I'm mad about this so we're even, okay? Hearing Yi Wanwan saying that she was also mad, Si Han's face turned gentler. Sweeping his eyes across the scattered documents all over the living room, he asked, we'll be setting off the day after tomorrow. Are you ready? Yi Wanwan coughed lightly. More or less. Si Han took a seat on the sofa then picked up a technical book. Finished reading. He looked as if he wanted to cram everything into her head. Yi Wanwan gave a look of pain and anguish. Not yet. I've been reading these things every single day and my head is about to explode soon. I only want to look at you right now. Alas, that didn't work on Si Han at all. He said, come here. Yi Wanwan hurriedly promised him, darling, don't worry. Since I dared to snatch this task away from Qin Ruoshi, I won't let you down. I'll make sure I'll do a perfect job. Chapter 729, Great at Acting. Actually, she couldn't really blame Si Han for being so paranoid about her. In her previous life, Si Han tried many times to pave a way for her, but she messed up each chance. However, this time, she would not make the same mistakes. The next day, in the C Corporation conference room, Si Han sat on the main seat in the middle. On his left was Yi Wan, dressed in a champagne-colored professional outfit. Si Han held her hand and guided her for so long. This was the first time he officially brought her into the company as his personal assistant. She was in a position where she could intervene with the affairs of any department, familiarize herself with the company in the shortest time and build her network. Good morning, everyone. Please give me your guidance in the days to come. Yi Wan stood up gracefully and gave a simple greeting. As Si Han was sitting right there, it didn't matter what those people were thinking, there were warm and welcoming smiles on everybody's faces, and of course, Qin Ruoshi was the first who stood up and applauded. As Chairman Si's health is not suitable for long-distance travel, I will be going on the Myanmar trip on his behalf, Yi Wan said. At first, Qin Ruoshi was confirmed as the one going on this trip, but her role was snatched away by Yi Wan. Qin Ruoshi acted like she didn't hold the slightest grudge and said calmly, for the procurement of jade on this trip, I have prepared quite a bit and done some market research as well. Assistant Yi, if there is anything you are unclear about, you can approach me for assistance anytime. What she said was simply reminding everybody that Yi Wan was taking credit for her work. Qin Ruoshi obviously acting, so Yi Wan played along. Yi Wan pretended like she didn't sense anything and said innocently, haha, thank you, Director Qin. I won't act overly polite then. The higher-ups who supported Qin Ruoshi almost couldn't contain their anger anymore seeing how arrogant Yi Wan was, but just one look from Si Han made all of them shake like quails. They didn't dare to even let out a fart and could only shake their heads in unison. Yi Wan looked coldly at them from the sidelines and suddenly felt that it was quite challenging to be in the position of these higher-ups. Not only did they have to be professional in their work, but they also needed to be great at acting. Si Han, meeting adjourned. Assistant Yi, come to my office. Yes. Yi Wan put on a bitter face and followed behind the cold and rigid figure. He's definitely going to nag at me again. Why does he have to worry so much? He already nagged at me the entire night yesterday, but he's still not giving me a break now. During the meeting just now, nobody dared to say a word, but once they were dismissed, everything they wanted to say came out. Director Qin was simply forced aside just like that by that vixen. Just look at the way she acts, any man would fall for it, including our boss. Even if boss likes her, he didn't have to be so biased, right? Director Qin was supposed to be the one going on the Myanmar trip, but the vixen just came in and snatched someone's job away. Director Qin grew up with boss, so obviously Yi Wan would want to oppose her. Tsk tisk. Late at night, Qin residence, in the yard, there was a low vintage coffee table and a cushion next to it. Qin Ruoshi was kneeling on the cushion making some tea. Seeing how unmoving Qin Ruoshi was, a certain someone couldn't contain his anger. Miss Ruoshi, that woman is stretching her arm longer and longer, she even started to meddle with the company's affairs now and snatched the job from your hands on purpose, this is too much. Yuan Xing's face darkened. Miss Ruoshi, I've already checked that the woman doesn't know a thing about precious stones, yet she dared to boast and volunteered for the job shamelessly. We have to play some tricks to cause her to mess things up. When the time comes. Chapter 730, You'll be satisfied for sure. Qin Ruoshi looked at him plainly and ordered him, You're not allowed to do anything. Yuan Xing panicked when he heard her. She's already bullying you and pushing you to your limit, are you just going to continue taking it? Watching 11 and Feng Xianyi benefiting by following Yi Wan and seeing Qin Ruoshi's interests getting affected as a result, he was obviously in a panic. Before Qin Ruoshi could say anything, Xue Li, who was next to them, had a look of disdain and exclaimed, HNG, stupid. Miss Ruoshi already prepared a lot for the procurement of jade in Myanmar this time. Even if that woman successfully clinches the deal, credit should go to Miss Ruoshi, what will it have to do with her? The people in the company aren't fools, shouldn't they know better? When Yuan Xing heard that, his expression turned much gentler and he mumbled, that makes sense. This woman took credit for Miss Ruashi's efforts, it'll only make others dislike her more. A hint of light flashed in Xue Li's eyes. When the time comes, we can simply use this incident to make her lose all favor with everyone. Qin Ruashi took a sip of tea before she said, "You're going to accompany her for this trip. You know what to do, right?" Xue Li replied swiftly, "Miss Ruashi, don't worry. You'll be satisfied for sure." In the blink of an eye, it was the day of the trip. At the enormous airport, Yuan Wan, Feng Xianyi and a group of people were waiting for their flight. For this Myanmar trip, aside from Xue Li and the group of Jade experts, Feng Xianyi, 11 and over 10 members from the Dark Team were going as well. As the schedule for this trip was quite rushed and scheduled at the last minute, Yuan Wan and the others didn't have time to charter a flight. After waiting for about half an hour, Yuan Wan and the others boarded the plane bound for Myanmar. Aside from Yuan Wan and her entourage, there was also a middle-aged couple and a little boy around the age of 11 or 12 on board. It would take about 5 hours to travel from Imperial City to Myanmar. After Yuan Wan took a seat on the plane, she looked out the window as the engines roared and the plane took off. All she saw was the vast sky as lethargy slowly overwhelmed her. She shut her eyes and in that moment of darkness, memories from her previous life surfaced in her head. In her previous life, Siyihan didn't go on this Myanmar trip due to his weakening body as well. Instead, Qin Ruashi went on his behalf. Qin Ruashi was very well versed in the investment of precious stones. Plus, she went to Myanmar on Siyihan's behalf to invest in precious stones, so in her previous life, Qin Ruashi did a lot of research on the market prices of precious stones in Myanmar before she set off. It could be said that before Qin Ruashi set off on the Myanmar trip, she was filled with confidence, but nobody expected that. There were some fluctuations in the precious stone market in Myanmar, and although Qin Ruashi made ample preparations, she still ended up with losses. Yuan Wan couldn't really recall the specific details of what happened. In her previous life, even though she followed Qin Ruashi and the others to Myanmar, they didn't allow her to meddle with the precious stone investments at all. On most days, they only let her follow them around and never allowed her to participate in any important company issues. One could say that. When Yuan Wan went to Myanmar in her previous life, she was just a useless decoration. Qin Ruashi and the others didn't care about her presence at all. Although that was the case, Yuan Wan followed them around the whole trip, so as far as this present trip was concerned, she felt quite calm and confident about it. Chapter 731, Little Brat. Although Yuan Wan didn't know much about investing in precious stones, there was gambling involved. As long as gambling was associated with it, there must be some luck involved. As they were gambling with precious stones, it didn't matter how skillful or experienced one was, he or she would not be able to be certain of making a profit. Otherwise, investments in precious stones would have vanished 100 years ago and there would be plenty of wealthy people everywhere on Earth, right? Memories from Yuan Wan's previous life flashed in her mind. She slowly opened her eyes and watched as the white clouds floated by. Then she took out a book regarding investments in precious stones from her bag, about to obediently listen to Siyihan's nagging to build her foundation of gambling with precious stones. But she only managed to read 3 to 4 pages before a hand suddenly appeared on top of her book and yanked it out of her grasp. Yuan Wan was taken aback and lifted her head instinctively. Then she saw. The one who snatched her book away was the 12-year-old boy. The little boy didn't look guilty at all, he took the book and swaggered back to his seat. Yuan Wan looked at the little boy as she said, "Little friend, could you please return the book to me?" "Why should I?" The little boy turned around and glared at Yuan Wan apathetically. Yuan Wan was somewhat speechless by this little boy's glare. She had already read many rumors regarding little brats on Weibo and didn't expect to actually meet a living one today. She already discussed having children with Siyihan, so nobody could really blame her for not being exceptionally fond of those creatures. He brazenly took away a stranger's book, yet he wasn't the least bit apologetic and even thought he was doing the right thing. In addition, the middle-aged couple seated at the side paid no attention to the boy's conduct. They didn't do anything to stop him and didn't bother explaining or apologizing to Yi Wanwan either. Are you his guardians? Yi Wanwan frowned and looked at the middle-aged couple. What is it? The middle-aged lady with a slightly plump figure, slitted eyes, and light eyebrows looked at Yi Wanwan, annoyed. Your child took my book, Yi Wanwan said. Hearing that, the middle-aged woman pouted disdainfully, glanced at the book her brat had taken and said disapprovingly, It's just a book and you're a grown-up, why are you bickering with a child? Can't you let him take a look? Furthermore, can you even understand a word in this book? What the middle-aged woman said caused Yi Wanwan to be completely speechless. Truly, a dragon breeds a dragon, a phoenix breeds a phoenix, and the son of a rat can dig a hole. Like begets like, a pair of bratty parents obviously raise a brat. Before Yi Wanwan could speak, 11 left his seat instantly. His face darkened and he snatched the book from the boy's hands instantly. How dare you snatch my book? The little brat saw that the book was snatched away from him and he exploded in fury. He lifted his feet almost out of instinct and was about to kick 11's thighs. 11 moved away slightly and the little brat couldn't even touch his pants at all. 11's face darkened further. He narrowed his eyes and looked at the little brat coldly. Who brought up such an uncultured thing? Chapter 732. An atrocious encounter. After being yelled at by 11, the little brat was stunned and wasn't apologetic at all. He turned around directly with an aggrieved face and pounced into the middle-aged woman's arms. Mommy! He yelled at me. What are you doing? Watching her son being bullied, the middle-aged woman didn't care who was in the wrong and stood up immediately. She shoved 11's left shoulder. You're a grown man. How dare you bully a little kid? You son of a bitch. What little kid? This child is over 10 years old. How is he a little kid? Push me once more and I'll beat you up. A cold light flashed in 11's eyes. Although he didn't ever hit women, this thing in front of him wasn't really considered a woman, right? If he had known this would happen, he would have chartered a private jet over, but Miss Wanwan was still establishing her place in the company and trying to gain favor, so she couldn't be too particular. Otherwise, it would cause some tongues to wag. Hit me. The middle-aged woman screeched, all of you big and bulky men actually want to beat up a helpless woman and child. Are you guys shameless or what? Come on, try hitting me, yeah. What despicable being are you, bullying a woman and a child? The middle-aged man who had been silent the whole time suddenly stood up and waved his fist like he was about to punch 11. However, before his fist could reach 11, more than 10 dark team guards on the plane stood up. With over a dozen big and tall men standing up at once on the confined plane, it was simply eye-grabbing. In just a moment, the middle-aged man froze and over 10 pairs of eyes stared straight at him. It was as if he was sitting on pins and needles. The middle-aged man had his fist frozen in the air and failed to move at all. Their bickering attracted the attention of a flight attendant immediately. Seeing that there was a situation on the plane, the flight attendant rushed over and persuaded them to stop gently, putting an end to the fight. The infuriated and arrogant middle-aged couple didn't expect there would be so many people protecting Yi Wanwan and didn't dare to continue causing a ruckus. They took advantage of the flight attendant's persuasion, extracted themselves from the embarrassing situation and returned to their seats. Darn it! We'll deal with these people once we arrive in Myanmar. The middle-aged man sat down but was still burning with rage. He swept his gaze across Yi Wanwan and the others and scoffed, these ignorant fools. How dare they provoke me? I'll make sure I put all of them to death. 11 couldn't be bothered to quarrel with this atrocious family. After he passed the book over to Yi Wanwan, he got the other guards to sit down. From beginning till end, Xue Li and the group of experts hadn't said a single word and only watched coldly at this farce. Yi Wanwan took the book and didn't say much about it. Nobody really cared about a small episode like this. The plane finally arrived at their destination in the afternoon that same day. Myanmar, H City. Yi Wanwan and the others had just exited the plane when the family of 3 appeared again. There are so many of you, but big deal, huh? Just wait and see. The middle-aged couple glared sternly at Yi Wanwan, then strode off. Yi Wanwan couldn't be bothered with this low-level family and didn't give a care about them. She picked up her luggage with 11 and everyone else and walked towards the airport exit. Before Yi Wanwan and the others walked out of the airport, a man wearing a pair of black shades and black top walked briskly towards them with a card in his hand. Chapter 733, City of Gambling on Stones. 11 and Shueli stepped forward to greet the person and seemed quite familiar with him. After they greeted one another, the guy in the black shirt smiled at Yi Wanwan and spoke very politely. Good afternoon, Miss Yi, my name is Ma Bing. I am Mr. Su Yi's friend from Myanmar and I was informed of Miss Ye's visit this time, so Mr. Su Yi instructed me to pick you up. Hearing that, Yi Wanwan nodded. Before flying to Myanmar, Su Yi already informed her about this. This Ma Bing was very famous in City H. It was said that he worked for both the good and the bad sides and was quite experienced in gambling on precious stones. Myanmar's H city was known as the city for the gambling on precious stones. The exploding profits from gambling on precious stones had given this city its prosperity and buzz, but also caused disorder in the city. Security was very disorganized and this city was a place where both dragons and snakes, existed. As the saying went, the mighty dragon is no match for the native serpent. If they relied on only 11, Feng Xian Yi and the others, it wouldn't be adequate. After all, they weren't familiar with the place, which was why Su Yi called up Ma Bing beforehand. This Ma Bing was part of the local mafia bosses, so with him around, it would save them a great deal of inconvenience. Hello, Mr. Ma Bing, sorry to trouble you. Yi Wanwan smiled. Miss Yi, don't say that. You're the mistress of the household, so it's my pleasure to be able to service Miss Yi. Furthermore, Su Yi and I are bosom buddies. If it weren't for Su Yi that one time, I would have starved to death on the streets of Myanmar. Ma Bing chuckled. Yi Wanwan and the others followed Ma Bing and strode out of the airport. On the way out, Yi Wanwan asked Ma Bing about the situation in H City regarding the appraisal of precious stones. Ma Bing naturally answered her frankly. Myanmar's H City was known as the City of Precious Stones but was also the place where the risk of appraising these stones was highest. It was unlike ordinary gambling on precious stones. In H City, they only gambled on jadeite and the value of jadeite was very high right now. It had a huge international market and with such massive profits, many people came to try their luck. In addition, the precious stones in H City were also the most valuable in the world. All the precious stones here were judged by their sizes, color, and luster. Ordinary precious stones in the country were valued at tens of thousands of yuan to thousands of yuan per caddy, while the better ones from Myanmar's H City could reach up to hundreds of thousands of yuan per caddy, so a rock weighing over 100 caddies would cost at least 10 million yuan. Once it was revealed to be an empty stone, there would be no return for one's hard-earned savings. In H City, there were many gamblers of precious stones who became wealthy or bankrupt overnight. Many of these speculators lost their family fortunes in gambling on precious stones. In order to find out whether the rocks were worth anything, the only way was to crack open the rocks, which also meant that the lives and possessions of speculators all depended on it. Miss Yi, this industry of the jade trade, you either get rich overnight or lose your entire life savings. Ma Bing took small quick steps and stepped in front of Yi Wanwan. As a matter of fact, just a few months ago, a company specializing in precious stone excavation from H City excavated a giant rock weighing 300 caddies. It was a superb grade with regards to its color, luster, and quality. The value rose to 400,000 yuan a caddy, and it was said that it might contain a jade of the highest quality. Not long after, a rich merchant brought along an expert in precious stones to appraise the rock and spent over 100 million to buy that huge rock. Miss Yi, can you guess what the outcome was? What was it? Yi Wanwan laughed and probed curiously. Actually, she already heard about this in her previous life when she came to Myanmar. Chapter 734, How Dare You Hit Me? Ma Bing slapped his thigh immediately and said, the huge rock that weighed 300 caddies and cost more than 100 million, was completely empty, not a single piece of jade was inside. That rich merchant leaped off from the roof of a 30-story building that very day. That fall was, Yi Wanwan felt very helpless about this as well. This was the case with gambling on precious stones. Even if one had an exceedingly specialized strategy, they couldn't determine whether profits would be made. Of course, that was a good thing for ordinary folks. In H City, there were many similar cases to that rich merchant. In her previous life, how much preparation did Qin Ruoshi do? Alas, Qin Ruoshi still returned home with nothing. If it wasn't for the strong capital the Si family had, this massive loss would have caused utter despair and death if it happened to other rich businessmen. Ma Bing kept talking to Yi Wanwan about the events happening in H City and led them to the best hotel in the city. After ensuring that everything was settled, Ma Bing left. Yi Wanwan let Feng Xianyi, 11 and the others rest for a day. When Yi Wanwan entered her hotel room, she unpacked her luggage and stood at the floor-to-ceiling window. She had some thoughts running in her mind as she looked at the heavy traffic beneath the tall building. In Myanmar's H City, aside from being relatively more developed in the jade trade, it was also much more chaotic. The northern part of Myanmar's H City was considered a sensitive area with quite a number of militants. In such a chaotic city, there were great opportunities. It could be described as having gold littered everywhere, but just one slightly careless mistake could cause you to be buried in this foreign land. With the coexistence of both danger and opportunities, many speculators found it to be a great place. However, this great place had many skeletons of people with lost fortunes buried inside. Bang! The loud noise pulled Yi Wanwan back to reality abruptly. In an instant, Yi Wanwan furrowed her brows and turned towards the source of the noise. The originally strong and big door of the room was now shattered to pieces. Bang! In just a few blinks of the eye, the entire door of the hotel room was smashed open by someone. The second the door shattered, 34 youths charged into Yi Wanwan's room. These youths were hooligans. They had knives and clubs in their hands, and leading the group was the middle-aged couple from the plane. "It's this bitch!" The middle-aged woman yelled and pointed at Yi Wanwan the moment she saw her by the window. The middle-aged woman then charged forward ferociously. She raised her arm and directly waved it towards Yi Wanwan. Pow! But the moment that woman's arm moved downwards, Yi Wanwan remained calm and gripped that middle-aged woman by her wrist. The middle-aged woman's slap froze in midair. "How dare you retaliate?" The middle-aged woman glared at Yi Wanwan aggressively. "Do you realize your mother will kill you today?" Hearing that, a cold light flashed in Yi Wanwan's eyes as she lifted her hand and gave the middle-aged woman a tight slap. The sound of that slap was crisp and clear as it echoed throughout the suite. A fresh red mark of 5 fingers instantly appeared on the middle-aged woman's cheek. "How dare you hit me?" The middle-aged woman was stunned by Yi Wanwan's slap, shocked in disbelief. "With parents like the two of you, it was no wonder you raised a child like this," Yi Wanwan said indifferently. "You bloody bitch," the middle-aged woman bellowed. Following that, Yi Wanwan gave the middle-aged woman another slap. Nobody expected that this seemingly frail woman before them would actually be so daring to slap that woman twice. The people who came with the middle-aged woman were somewhat astonished. Chapter 735, A Surprising Outcome, Hit Her to Death. The middle-aged man was the first one to regain his senses, and he yelled immediately. Hearing that command, dozens of youth charged forward and surrounded Yi Wanwan. Yi Wanwan looked coldly at the people around her without any fluctuations in her gaze. "Kill her!" The middle-aged woman covered her swollen cheek and screamed. "This woman actually dared to hit me." At that moment, those devils and monsters tried to charge towards Yi Wanwan. However, before they could lay their hands on her, dozens of figures suddenly charged into the room. 11, Feng Xianyi and over 10 dark team guards rushed into the room and looked at the people surrounding Yi Wanwan. 11's face turned gloomy. His room was right next to Yuanwan's, and when he heard a commotion earlier, he felt something wasn't right, so he brought his men and rushed over instantly. However, he didn't expect that it would be that atrocious couple from the plane with an entourage this time. 11 roared, "Are you guys courting death?" The middle-aged man saw the people who rushed into the room and was completely fearless. Instead, he chuckled, "Courting death? I think all of you garbage are the ones courting death. This is Myanmar's H city. It's my territory. Who do you think you are? If you're a dragon, you have to bow down to me. If you're a tiger, you have to lie down for me." The young men brought over by the middle-aged man looked at 11 and the others and scoffed at them. This group of foolish foreigners still had no idea who this middle-aged man was. He was said to be the spy that housekeeper Su Yi from the C family in country Z planted in Myanmar H city. He held quite a bit of power in H city. This group of foreigners was really unlucky. Of all people, they chose to provoke this middle-aged man. Weren't they the ones courting death, huh? 11 narrowed his eyes. He looked at the arrogant middle-aged man and his expression darkened. Beat them up. 11 disregarded everything as he brought the dark team guards forward and charged towards the other group. These dark team guards underwent training while those young gangsters were merely a mob. They were completely unable to hold back the dark team guards at all. Before half a minute was up, those young gangsters were all on the ground and howling in agony. There was no way they still had the slightest bit of arrogance now. Seeing the dozens of people knocked down in the blink of an eye, the joyful smiles on the middle-aged couple's faces immediately froze and cracked. They're all trained. The middle-aged man was in a daze. Each one of their enemies was highly skilled while they brought a bunch of young gangsters. They were completely pressed to the ground with a finger and weren't able to fight back at all, much less rebel. At that moment, the middle-aged woman screamed at them with her high-pitched voice. "You guys are blind. We belong to the C family from country Z. Come and touch us if you dare." The moment that woman's voice resounded, 11 and the others were flabbergasted. Country Z. C family. The middle-aged woman thought the C family's name had subdued 11 and the others. She immediately raised her chin towards the middle-aged man delightfully. The middle-aged man recovered the arrogance he had before and sneered at 11, "I don't care who you guys are. As long as you've offended me, there will be no good fortune for any of you." However, 11 and the others looked at this couple with an even more bizarre expression. Yuanwan was also surprised by the name the other party announced. Chapter 736, Mistress of the Household. However, before 11 and the others could speak, Ma Bing returned once again. The second Ma Bing stepped into the hotel room, he saw the ground littered with little boys who were beaten up and his face darkened. He then raised his head and his face turned gloomier as he looked at the middle-aged couple who were gloating and feeling victorious. "Zhou Can, my boy, you're remarkable, such a big troop you got there." Ma Bing turned to the middle-aged man and sneered. When the middle-aged couple saw Ma Bing, they were taken aback. The triumphant looks on their faces immediately disappeared into thin air. This Ma Bing possessed great power in H City and was even a buddy of their boss, Su Yi. But why is this Ma Bing showing up here? Could it be that Ma Bing had some connection with these people? Oh, Zhou Ji. The middle-aged man didn't have time to think as he smiled and quickly stepped forward, taking out a cigarette from his pocket. "Ha!" Ma Bing sneered as he watched the middle-aged man bringing the cigarette over and he shook his head sarcastically. "Unacceptable, unacceptable. Old pal, your reputation is too high now. I wouldn't dare to accept your cigarette." "Ma Ji, what are you talking about? Is there some misunderstanding here? Do you know these people?" Seeing how Ma Bing was acting, the middle-aged man knew something was wrong. Although he didn't have much interactions with Ma Bing in the past, he met him a few times before and Ma Bing never treated him with such attitude. "Aren't you working for Su Yi? Then, don't you know who this lady is?" Ma Bing scoffed. "Ah, this is..." The middle-aged man's heart thumped violently. He stared straight at Yi Wanwan with a hint of doubt and anxiety. Old pal Zhou, you should know what sort of guy your boss Su Yi is, right? Ma Bing gave the middle-aged man side-eye. I do. Boss Su is someone from the Xi family in country Z, how could I not know? The middle-aged man replied carefully. Since you know this, what on earth are you doing now? Ma Bing sneered, then looked at Yi Wanwan and said to the middle-aged man, this lady before you is the Xi family's mistress of the household. What? The middle-aged man was flabbergasted and stood rooted to the ground. After he returned to his senses, he stared at the indifferent and cold Yi Wanwan before him and his eyes constricted instantly. What did Ma Bing just say? This woman is the Xi family's mistress of the household. At this moment, the middle-aged man went completely blank. He felt like the world was spinning around him and his body went limp as he stumbled to the ground. If what Ma Bing said was true and this woman was really the mistress of the household, then those people there were the Xi family's dark team guards. No wonder each one of them was so skilled and dozens of their gangsters were beaten to the ground within seconds without a chance of retaliating at all. All the middle-aged man felt was his cold sweat becoming colder against his skin. He couldn't figure out why the mistress of the Xi family would come to Myanmar's H city and he didn't receive any calls from Su Yi beforehand. Furthermore, as the mistress of the household, even if she really came to Myanmar, she should have chartered a flight. Why would she be on the same plane as us? What mistress of the Xi family? Ma Bing, why should we believe what you said? The middle-aged woman shrieked. Damn it! Ma Bing glared at her sternly and gave her a tight slap on the face immediately. This slap sent the middle-aged woman rolling on the ground. Chapter 737, Building Forces. Seeing her man still being sluggish and in a daze, the middle-aged woman shoved him. Are you a man? Your wife got beaten by him, what are you still standing there for? You bitch! The middle-aged man returned to his senses and cursed at her before punching her to the ground. Ha! Ma Bing stared at the middle-aged man. Old pal Zhou, you're amazing. You have a knack for doing things, huh? Now, you dared to even offend the mistress of the household, Miss Yi. In the future, you'll be my big brother. I'll be your humble little brother and let you order me around. What do you think about that? Isn't that fantastic? Hearing that, the middle-aged man started sweating profusely. He didn't expect that this woman would actually be the Xi family's lady of the household. If he had known, he wouldn't have dared to offend her at all even if he had 100 guts. Miss Yi, I didn't know. Miss Yi, you're generous and forgiving. If I had known about your identity, I wouldn't have dared to do that even if you gave me 100,000 guts. Panicking, the middle-aged man fell to the ground and went on his knees. He crawled to Yi Wanwan and stuttered. Get lost. One of the dark team guards kicked him aside. You used the Xi family's name and tried to crush all of us. You're so daring that you even dared to kick down Miss Ye's door, huh? Another dark team guard sneered at the middle-aged man. Why don't we do this? I will deal with this person here and this group of scumbags. Ma Bing swept his gaze across the dozen young gangsters who were as silent as cicadas in the winter. Sorry to trouble you again. Yi Wanwan nodded slightly but didn't know whether to laugh or cry in her heart. Yi Wanwan didn't expect to encounter such a thing in H City, not to mention someone working under Su Yi. Miss Yi, don't mention it. It was my fault for not noticing earlier. Ma Bing sighed then waved towards the door. Over 10 men in black shirts rushed into the room at once and escorted those youths and the middle-aged couple out of the room. When that couple was dragged out of the room, they were still wailing and begging for forgiveness. But those voices diminished slowly as they were dragged further and further away. After dealing with this pair of tyrannical paper tigers, Ma Bing then immediately requested a new suite for Yi Wanwan and sent a warning to the hotel manager. After all, the middle-aged man was able to locate Yi Wanwan's room, so he must have received a tip-off from someone at the hotel. If this hotel manager continued to be so negligent, that wouldn't do. When everything was settled, this incident came to a close. In her new room, Yi Wanwan looked at the face of H City through the windows. After this incident, Yi Wanwan realized the importance of having her own force. She couldn't always rely on the C family's reputation. Power would be her greatest bargaining chip. If she could have her own forces. Suddenly, Yi Wanwan's eyes lit up and she thought of something. She vaguely remembered that in her past life when she arrived in Myanmar's H City, although she didn't go out alone often, she heard some news about H City from the Dark Team guards. In her previous life, it was said that a group of mercenaries was having a major fight with the local forces outside of H City, and everyone was killed eventually. If she wanted to build her own force, this seemed like a good starting point, if she could save those mercenaries for her own use. Yi Wanwan's eyes glistened slightly. She then looked through her phone contacts immediately and called someone. Chapter 738, hired a group of 5 brick-moving foreigner. Hello, who is this? Do you need someone to move bricks? Yi Wanwan, move bricks? This is famous Yi. Yi Wanwan pinched her brows. This is so weird. Oh, Boss Yi, have you changed professions? Do you need me to move bricks for you? The brick-moving foreigner sounded a little urgent. No. I wanted to ask if this is really your phone number. Yi Wanwan sighed. She was trying to contact that young devotee. Oh, this isn't my phone. The brick-moving foreigner shouted, Godly Rod, you have a call. Your mother. What are you doing with my phone? What if I can't find my phone and a client wants me to read his or her fortune? Losing one client is equivalent to 1 month's pay of brick moving for you. Can you afford that, huh? Hello. This is the humble devotee. Feng shui or fortune-telling? Are you dropping in or would you like me to head over? There is an extra charge if you want me to head over. The devotee took the phone away and blurted out a fluent string of words. Yi Wanwan was somewhat speechless but still managed to compose herself. Neither fortune-telling nor feng shui. The humble devotee, are you nuts? Why did you call me then? Yi Wanwan let out a deep sigh in her heart and replied, I am famous Yi. Oh, so it's sis famous. The devotee changed his tone instantly. Boss Yi, what can I do for you? The devotee was taken care of by famous Yi during the filming before and earned $100 by simply playing dead. It was quick and easy money. So seeing that she was calling him again, he thought there'd be some business to do. Yi Wanwan laughed. Is everyone there? Yes. Boss Yi, don't worry, even if we're not together, we'll get together just for you. This time, even our captain is free. Tell us, what do you need us to act as? There will still be meals provided this time, right? Yi Wanwan thought for a moment before speaking. There is indeed a job and it's great that all of you are together, but it requires you guys to go abroad. Abroad? The devotee was stunned, then he shouted, Boss Yi has a job for us and we have to go abroad, do we take it or not? After hearing a bunch of noises through the phone, the devotee answered, Boss Yi, which country is it? Is your filming crew going away to film a scenic shot? Sort of. Myanmar's H City. Please check if all of you are able to come over, Yi Wanwan said. Going to Myanmar. Captain, do we go or not? After some time, the devotee said, Boss Yi, it's like this. Although we're willing to accept your job, we don't have the money to take a plane. It's about $3,000 for a return trip and with 5 of us, it will cost up to $15,000. I will reimburse you, Yi Wanwan replied. We don't have money to take a plane at all, it's not a matter of reimbursement. How about this, you transfer $15,000 over first. Miss Yi, don't worry, we've known each other for some time already. We won't lie to you. The devotee slapped his chest and promised her. Yi Wanwan was very straightforward. She took down the devotee's bank account number and transferred the flight money over. Wait, Boss Yi, we need to charge more for this trip. Aside from the reimbursement of the plane tickets, you have to pay for our meals and lodging. Also, we require at least $1,000 per person. Otherwise, we won't be going. The devotee sounded very confident and self-righteous. The corners of Yi Wanwan's lips twitched. He actually requested a higher fee when I've already transferred the money for the flight, so I don't really have a choice, right? Chapter 739, Little Devil's Video Call. Sure, I agree to all your requests. In addition, on top of the $1,000 each of you will be receiving, I'll pay all of you an additional $1,000, Yi Wanwan said. You'll pay an additional $1,000 for each person or, the devotee asked uncertainly. Each person. Yi Wanwan was helpless. She felt like she wasn't suited to discuss business with these people and talking to them was exhausting. Ha, Boss Yi, you're so generous. Don't worry, leave it to us. Just say the word and we'll make sure to do a splendid job. The corners of Yi Wanwan's mouth twitched. After she gave the detailed address to the devotee, she hurriedly ended the call. She had to say that these 5 people were extremely efficient. They arrived at H City the very next morning and found their way to the hotel without needing Yi Wanwan to fetch them from the airport. Ha, famous, we meet again. Nameless Nya was dressed in a casual and relaxed outfit. Although his clothes were very cheap, they looked quite decent when he was wearing them and made him look very nice. Spray of Flowers was still gorgeously dressed, following behind Nameless Nya with jolting buttocks. The moment they arrived at Yi Wanwan's room, the beautiful iceberg man, who was carrying a coffin, laid on the floor immediately. Hubby, get up. You don't have to pretend to be a dead person in front of Boss Yi, Spray of Flowers said to the beautiful iceberg man. However, the beautiful iceberg man didn't seem to have any intention of getting up. Stand up right now. Don't you have any bones? Nameless Nya ordered. Being chided like that by Nameless Nya, the beautiful iceberg man crawled up reluctantly from the floor. Ha, Boss Yi, they're ill-disciplined, sorry about that, Nameless Nya was embarrassed. Oh, that's fine, I'm used to it. Yi Wanwan didn't find it strange at all. Seeing that beautiful iceberg man, Yi Wanwan couldn't help but feel curious. How did this man actually convince the hotel staff to allow him to bring a coffin in? Boss Yi, what do you have for us this time? Nameless Nya sat down on the sofa and crossed his legs, acting like a successful man there to talk business. Hey, your ancestor is video calling. Hey, your ancestor is video calling. Before Yi Wanwan could speak, Nameless Nya's phone started ringing and the ringtone was simply, out of this world. After he heard this ringtone, Nameless Nya's expression instantly changed while the devotee, Spray of Flowers, and everyone else turned to look at each other. That ancestor again. So sorry, Nameless Nya smiled apologetically at Yi Wanwan before answering the video call. From the corners of Yi Wanwan's eyes, she could see that on Nameless Nya's screen was a little boy dressed in a black British custom suit, sitting in a mansion. What a beautiful child. As a person who cared a lot about appearances, Yi Wanwan was immediately drawn in by the little boy in the video call. The little boy's face seemed to be decorated with white powder and carved out of jade. There wasn't a single spot that wasn't beautiful and delicate on his face. However, he was expressionless and had an indifferent little face, it seemed incompatible with his age. Yi Wanwan stood behind Nameless Nya and sized up the little boy out of curiosity. In the next few seconds, their eyes met. The moment they looked at each other, Yi Wanwan suddenly realized one thing. Why does this child look so familiar? Yi Wanwan thought about it while looking at the little boy in the video call. She kept staring at him and suddenly, she froze. This demeanor, this attitude, his little expressionless face and the way he's acting like he's above common mortals. He seems to be a mini version of Si Han. Amazing. Chapter 740, Are You My Mother? Are you my mother? The little boy's eyes, which didn't move initially, began forming small ripples. Huh, what? Your mother? Yi Wanwan was taken aback by the little boy's question. I'm not even married yet, okay? How could I have a son your age? However, I really don't mind having such a beautiful little boy, my little ancestor. Please don't spout nonsense, this is my client, not your mother. Nameless Nye panicked. Oh. After hearing what Nameless Nye said, the little boy's eyes returned to its original calm state. So you're saying you haven't found my mother yet? The little boy stared at Nameless Nye. The corners of his lips lifted upwards, revealing a terrifying aura. You can say that, but we have some leads. Nameless Nye felt meek when he saw the smile on this little ancestor's face. This is the 10th time you're saying this, the little boy replied indifferently. Cough cough. Don't be anxious, uncle will definitely find a mother for you. Nameless Nye sighed. So you're planning to simply find a woman to mess with me, the little boy said. Before Nameless Nye could continue, the little boy interrupted him and said coldly, I will be going to Country Z personally in a few days' time, so you better find my parents before then. If I really go over, I'm afraid you'll have a serious mental breakdown. The little boy didn't give Nameless Nye a chance to reply. He merely glanced at Yi Wanwan, who was behind Nameless Nye, and ended the video call silently. Yi Wanwan wanted to take a few more glances but realized the video call had ended. This little doll wasn't big at all, but the aura around him was 1.8 meters wide. Ah. Your son? Yi Wanwan asked. After asking, Yi Wanwan stared at Nameless Nye and found it quite strange. She couldn't tell that this unreliable captain actually had such a beautiful son. He was really beautiful, really adorable. Nameless Nye was rendered speechless by her question. If I had such a scary son, I'd rather die. He's my younger sister's son, Nameless Nye replied. Then, shouldn't he recognize his own mother? Yi Wanwan thought it was quite weird since the little boy looked straight at her and called her mommy. How could he not recognize his own mother? Nameless Nye sighed and patted his head. It's a long story. It was as if he didn't have anyone to rant to normally. Nameless Nye grabbed Yi Wanwan and spewed out a stomachful of bitter complaints. Like me, my sister left home at a young age and at first, our family arranged a marriage for her, but who knew she would refuse to return home and even found a wild man on the outside. She disappeared right after giving birth. Not only does this little brat not know who his mother is, but he doesn't even know what his father looks like. Yi Wanwan, this set of parents is really amazing to be able to hide from their own son. It's quite a feat, famous Yi. You don't know how difficult this child is. He's smart and terrifying. Nameless Nye looked as if he was about to cry. If that little devil is really coming over in a few days' time and Worryless Nye is still not found, I'm going to be in deep trouble. All of a sudden, Nameless Nye had an idea. He stared at Yi Wanwan and his eyes glistened. Famous Yi, could you do me a favor? Seeing Nameless Nye's desperate expression, Yi Wanwan replied without hesitation, I've got no money. I'm not lending. Chapter 741, Having a Son All of a Sudden. Nameless Nye, no. I'm asking you to pretend to be my younger sister. Hearing that, Yi Wanwan was stunned and suddenly realized what Nameless Nye was planning to do. She smiled. You're not asking me to pretend to be your nephew's mom, are you? Yes, yes, yes. Nameless Nye nodded his head vigorously. That's exactly what I meant. The corners of Yi Wanwan's mouth twitched. In this day and age, it's okay to even impersonate someone's mother, huh? It must be really hard on this uncle for having to go to this extent. But Yi Wanwan wasn't sure why the image of the serious little boy in a customized black suit kept appearing in her head. The little guy's deadpan face and haughty attitude really resembled a proud little kitten. She didn't really detest the idea of pretending to be his mom. Moreover, Yi Wanwan would need the help of Nameless Nye and the others later in H City, so she might as well do him this favor. But didn't you tell your nephew during the video call just now that I'm your client? I don't think your nephew is a fool. Yi Wanwan thought about it carefully and spoke up. Don't worry. No matter how smart he is, he's still a kid. By then. I'll just say I wanted to give him a surprise, so I didn't admit you were his mother. Seeing that Yi Wanwan was agreeable, nameless Nye got excited and looked happier than if he received 10 bowls of dumplings. Alright then, you're his uncle. You have the final say. Yi Wanwan shrugged indifferently. Oh right, he. Could you see if you're able to help him find a father or something? Nameless Nye laughed. Excuse me? Yi Wanwan thought she heard him wrong. You've already come this far. Just help me all the way. How about you get your boyfriend or husband to pretend to be his father, Nameless Nye suggested. When Yi Wanwan heard that, she immediately thought of Si Yihan and shivered from head to toe. She couldn't even figure out how to explain this, not to mention whether or not Si Yihan would be agreeable. Furthermore, assuming that Si Yihan agrees to it, I'm afraid the entire planet would freeze with these two icebergs colliding. I just don't think this is such a great idea. I'll think about it. I can't give you an answer right now, you'll have to wait till we return. Yi Wanwan sighed. Why can't you give me an answer now? Nameless Nye asked, dissatisfied. Don't you think I have to discuss something like this with my lover first? After all, we're actually having a son all of a sudden. Yi Wanwan had a headache as she pinched her brows. Fine. That makes sense, then sorry to trouble you, famous Yi. Nameless Nye nodded. As long as she agreed to it, everything should be fine. The devotee, Spray of Flowers, and the others were shocked. Each one of them shook their heads. If Little Devil finds out Nameless Nye found someone to impersonate his parents, the consequences will be disastrous. Isn't Captain a little too gutsy? Whatever it is, we don't know anything, don't have a clue at all, and it had nothing to do with us. Captain will have to take the blame if anything happens. Let's talk business first, Yi Wanwan said seriously. Hearing that, the few of them instantly became enthusiastic and sat upright, facing her with rapt attention. Boss Yi, we agreed earlier that the plane tickets, meals, and lodging would be paid for, and each one of us would be paid $2,000, right? The devotee wanted to confirm their salaries with urgency. He remembered this sort of thing very well. Yi Wanwan, that's right. Chapter 742, Haggle. So, Boss Yi, what roles do we have to play this time? Are we still playing a walk-on part? Could you give us better roles? I think I can be a martial arts superstar. Of course, if the character is a martial arts superstar who cross-dresses, that would be better. I can play the role of a heroine, a female devil, a notorious female bandit leader, or a female general, etc. Spray of Flowers, who was dressed in a bright red top and was prettier than a girl, quickly leaned forward eagerly. Me too. The brick-moving foreigner raised his hand. Yi Wanwan looked at this group of rare species and was speechless. She had to say that the appearances of this little devotee and Spray of Flowers were really original and not conventional. If they underwent transformations, they could definitely become popular rookies. After all, they had quite good foundations. Yi Wanwan scanned around the room. The most qualified ones were the Iceberg Beauty, who enjoyed playing dead, as well as Nameless Nye. If she allowed this Iceberg Beauty to act like a corpse, he would most likely receive the Best Actor award, but if she made him act in other roles, he could forget about ever winning. She hadn't seen anyone lazier than him. And Nameless Nye had more of a sunshine boy image. He was also quite good-looking, and when he spoke, he could eliminate all the other young rookies in a second. With those thoughts in mind, Yi Wanwan stared at them, starry-eyed. Why hadn't she noticed this before? These people were hidden treasures. Yi Wanwan was confident that if she signed a contract with them, she would definitely be able to groom them. Of course, that was just her opinion. Boss Yi, I remember this H-city as a city of gambling on stones. Are you guys filming a movie about the speculation of precious stones? The devotee asked out of curiosity. Yi Wanwan returned to her senses. Her eyes lit up and she smiled. Actually, I didn't get you guys to come over to film a movie or drama series this time. Instead, I want all of you to be my bodyguards. Bodyguards? Upon hearing what Yi Wanwan said, the devotee and Spray of Flowers looked at each other. Boss Yi, you weren't very honest. We thought we were going to film a movie. Spray of Flowers looked very reluctant. We need an increase in our pay if you want us to be your bodyguards. $2,000 isn't enough. That's right. You'll have to pay us more. The brick-moving foreigner nodded repeatedly. Pay more. Nameless Nya frowned and looked sharply at them. After what Nameless Nya said, the devotee and brick-moving foreigner tactfully shut their mouths. Famous Yi, it's like this, we have rules and we don't use violence or do anything illegal. Even if we have to starve to death, we will never do those things. Nameless Nya turned to the devotee and Spray of Flowers. Am I right or not? Devotee, yes. Spray of Flowers, yes. The two of them were in low spirits. They finally found a high-paying job assignment with plane tickets, meals and lodging provided, and each of them would be able to earn $2,000. They just had to be her bodyguards, right? Couldn't they do that? Great, what a waste of time. Are you sure? Yi Wanwan smiled faintly and looked straight at Nameless Nya. Of course I'm sure. Nameless Nya nodded sternly. All right. Yi Wanwan nodded and said, you have to find someone else to impersonate your nephew's parents, then. Also, I memorized your nephew's number while you were on the video call with him. What if I got drunk one day and told your nephew about you finding people to impersonate his parents? You wouldn't blame me, would you? Nameless Nya stood rooted to the ground after hearing Yi Wanwan's words. If the little devil found out I got people to impersonate his parents. Chapter 743, Do you have an illegitimate child? Famous Yi, how could you say that? Nameless Nya's attitude made a 180-degree turn and he forced on a smile. Those rules I mentioned just now only apply to other people, they don't apply to you at all. Also, being a bodyguard isn't against the law and we might not have to use violence, right? Devotee, Spray of Flowers, brick-moving foreigner, beautiful iceberg man. Yi Wanwan looked at Nameless Nya and smiled plainly. Forget it. It feels like I'm forcing all of you. Furthermore, it's against your principles to use violence. No, not at all. We don't feel forced at all. Nameless Nya shook his head non-stop. We're very willing to be Famous Ye's bodyguards. You'll be taking care of our meals and plane tickets, where else could we find such a great deal, huh? Really? Yi Wanwan smiled. Of course. Nameless Nya was resolute. He glanced at the others. Am I right? Spray of Flowers, Captain is right. Devotee, of course. Brick-moving foreigner, increase our pay, beautiful iceberg man. But how about, giving us more money, huh? Famous Yi, look, H-City is too messy, how about increasing our pay by $500? Nameless Nya leaned towards Yi Wanwan and chuckled lightly. Initially, Yi Wanwan wanted to increase their pay by $1,000 each, but since Nameless Nya only asked for $500, she agreed to it. I came to H-City to speculate in precious stones. Yi Wanwan then told Nameless Nya and the others about the ins and outs of her visit there. After their discussion, Yi Wanwan arranged a suite for each of them at the same hotel. With each of them settled in their rooms, Yi Wanwan could finally relax. Actually, she asked Nameless Nya and the others to come along this time mainly to cheat, no, to save that gang of fugitives and rebels. Obviously, this would be quite complicated and Yi Wanwan planned to work on a nice speech before telling Nameless Nya and the others about it the next day. Otherwise, if she made any mistakes, Nameless Nya might bring up the issue of his principles again, unwilling to use violence and simply leave. That wasn't what she wanted at all. Late at night, Yi Wanwan laid on her bed and the image of that arrogant little boy appeared in her head subconsciously. That little face really puzzled Yi Wanwan. That child's attitude and mannerisms were too similar to Si-Han's. Is it possible? Si-Han is actually that wild man nameless Nya mentioned, that little boy's father? The more Yu Wanwan thought about it, the more she felt that the two of them were two peas in a pod. Even the way they dressed and spoke were exactly the same. He can't be his illegitimate son, right? Yu Wanwan furrowed her brows and rolled around on the bed. She couldn't sleep at all and her mind started to wander. While Yu Wanwan was deep in thought, her phone rang. Si-Han had sent her a text message. Si-Han, are you asleep? Yu Wanwan typed a reply rapidly on her phone. Don't ask whether I'm asleep or not. I have something I need to ask you first. Si-Han replied in seconds, shoot. Yu Wanwan continued typing, let me ask you, do you have any other women other than me? After she sent that message, her phone went silent for a moment. Ding. That was a notification informing her of a new message. Si-Han replied, no. Yu Wanwan, you better think carefully. Maybe you even had an illegitimate son with a wild woman. Si-Han almost never used the ellipsis, but this ellipsis accurately represented how speechless he felt. Chapter 744, The Abandoned Little Devil. Si-Han, bad dream? Other than that, he couldn't figure out why Yu Wanwan would have such a strange thought. Yu Wanwan hugged her phone and rolled around on the bed. Nah, I saw an adorable little boy today, but the main point is that the little boy had a similar temperament to you, cold, indifferent, insufferably arrogant, and it was as if the phrase stupid humans was written all over his face, like speaking to other people would decrease his IQ. The two of you are remarkably alike. He's a little devil, so I almost thought you had an illegitimate child. Si-Han, cold, indifferent, insufferably arrogant, devil. Ah. I'm dead meat. I accidentally revealed my true thoughts of Si-Han. While describing how similar that little boy was to Si-Han, she said he was cold and indifferent. It was equivalent to saying Si-Han was like that. Yu Wanwan quickly tried to save herself. The point is that the little boy was really beautiful. It was as if he was carved out of jade, akin to the child of the goddess of mercy, who had such powerful genes to give birth to such a perfect-looking baby. Unless it's both of our genes combined, I feel like it would be impossible to give birth to such a beautiful little doll. Si-Han, you want one? Yu Wanwan couldn't help but shiver when she recalled the little boy's small icy-cold face from the video and his forbidding aura. Cough. Nah, forget it, they're children, only other people's kids are fun to play with. But I don't mind if we just have to take care of them for a couple days. If nameless Nya was serious, she really didn't mind giving it a go. If it was her own child, she wouldn't be able to tolerate it. This big devil was already a handful for her, and if a small one came along, would she ever have a peaceful day? Yu Wanwan, it's so late already. Why aren't you sleeping yet? After this period of recuperation, Si-Han's sleeping pattern had been becoming more and more regular. Occasionally, even if Yu Wanwan wasn't around, Si-Han would still able to sleep well. With proper rest, Si-Han's temper was more stable and it had turned into a positive cycle. Si-Han, preparing to. Imagining that low-pitched and hoarse cello-like voice on the other end of the phone, Yu Wanwan decided to give him a call. Do you want a bedtime story? Si-Han, sure. Yu Wanwan cleared her throat and began her story. A long, long time ago, there was a little girl. Since her grandmother gave her a very nice red hat, everyone called her Little Red Riding Hood. One day, Little Red Riding Hood wanted to deliver a cake to her grandmother, but on the way there, she met a big gray wolf. Little Red Riding Hood had never seen such a handsome wolf, so she used the cake to lure the big gray wolf into a secluded little forest. Little Red Riding Hood sternly said, "You ate my cake, so you're mine now." Si-Han, even if he hadn't listened to any fairy tales before, he knew that there was something wrong with this bedtime story, right? The next morning, the group of 5 appeared with heavy eye bags. On the other hand, Yu Wanwan was full of energy and thought the dark circles around their eyes was strange. Did all of you sneak off to be thieves last night? Devotee, How is that possible? We're a decent team. Spray of flowers, exactly. We don't do anything sleazy anymore. Yi Wanwan was speechless. So it means they used to be sleazy. Brick-moving foreigner replied, Boss, in order to perform well as your bodyguards, Captain ordered us to watch many movies, so rest assured that we'll do a great job for this mission. When Yi Wanwan heard that, she was moved. She really didn't think these people could be so reliable. It must have been hard on all of you. Don't worry, if you do this well, I'll give each of you another big red packet. Chapter 745, The Great Merger of the Group of Six. Nameless Nya, Boss, so what are we doing today? Godly Rod, take it down. Sure thing. The devotee dug and dug but didn't end up taking out a book. Instead, he took out a stack of yellow talismans to replace it. I forgot to bring a pen. Spray of Flowers gave him side-eye, then handed him an eyeliner pen. The corners of Yi Wanwan's lips twitched and she coughed. We'll be doing some precious stone speculation today. All of you just need to follow me around and put on an act. You don't have to take down any notes. Nameless Nya promised her, Famous Yi, don't worry. Just leave it to us, we'll make sure that even a fly won't be able to get close to you. He then glanced at the others. All of you know what we have to do today. The four of them replied in unison, yes. Nameless Nya, what's our slogan? The four people said, Boss Famous, as pretty as a flower, pretty 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 pretty, beautiful 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 beautiful. Upon hearing their slogan, Yi Wanwan nearly spewed out blood. She didn't expect that such a shameful slogan would actually befall her ears one day. Cough cough cough, I appreciate your kindness, but let's just do without the slogan. Yi Wanwan was in the middle of speaking to the five of them when she heard air footsteps behind her. 11 and Feng Xianyi were walking towards them. Swish swish swish. Spray of Flowers, brick-moving foreigner, and the devotee immediately stepped in front of Yi Wanwan and entered a state of vigilance. The iceberg man was also kicked to the front by Nameless Nya to be her human shield. Spray of Flowers, who are you? Brick-moving foreigner, these two people seem very dangerous. Step back, boss. Devotee, evildoers, where are you coming from? Yi Wanwan nearly broke down. Calm down, they're my people, Spray of Flowers immediately said. Boss, as the saying goes, one may know a person for a long time without understanding his true nature. I think the guy in red with a ring around his finger seems quite suspicious. Yi Wanwan turned to look at Feng Xianyi. The uniform for the head captain of the dark team was dark red and the head captain was also wearing a vermilion bird ring. Yi Wanwan replied helplessly, this is my disciple. I personally groomed him, don't be paranoid. Miss Wanwan, these people are. 11 sized the five people up suspiciously. Feng Xianyi was also confused and lost. They're the personal bodyguards I hired. Yi Wanwan really didn't want to admit that she hired these people herself. When 11 heard that, he frowned. Bodyguards? He and Feng Xianyi flew over with Miss Wanwan to protect her, yet she got some personal bodyguards herself. Did she not trust them? Yi Wanwan knew at one glance what 11 was thinking, so she explained, don't overthink things. You know very well the situation I'm in right now, and if I overuse Si Han's people, it'll seem like I'm using powerful connections to intimidate people. It's much more convenient this way, and I have some personal matters to see to in a few days' time. It won't be convenient for you guys to come along for that. Yi Wanwan provided a simple explanation of her situation, then introduced them to each other. Just as she was about to bring them downstairs, Feng Xianyi, who hadn't spoken a word, stuttered, Wan. Miss Wanwan, what is it? Yi Wanwan asked. Feng Xianyi, you are urgent. I need to go to the toilet. Oh, go on then. We'll gather at the lobby later, Yi Wanwan answered. Yes, Feng Xianyi rushed towards the toilet in an instant. Across him, Nameless Nya laughed. Boss, I suddenly realized I need to use the toilet too. Please excuse me. Sorry, Sorry. Following that, the devotee fled as well. I need to go to the toilet too. Spray of flowers chased after them swiftly. Me too, me too. Brick-moving foreigner, oh, then I shall go too. Chapter 746, It's most important for a family to stick together. Iceberg Man, I can still hold it in. Spray of flowers returned and dragged Iceberg Man over. Hubby, what are you standing there for? Quick, come over. It's important for a family to stick together. Yi Wanwan was speechless as she looked at the 6 of them rushing to the toilet. What the hell? Even guys like being accompanied to the toilet, huh? Yi Wanwan turned to 11 and asked, 11, are you going to the toilet too? 11 started sweating. Cough, I don't need to use the toilet. I'll go downstairs to check if Shui Li's side is ready. Yi Wanwan, sure. At least someone is more normal around here. At the same time, at the men's toilet, Spray of flowers forced Feng Xianyi to the corner with a sinister look. Damn! Bloody stutterer, we finally caught you. Captain, this traitor resorted to tricks and hid in the Xi family to take it easy, do you even care about us? The devotee went straight to the point and started to intimidate Feng Xianyi. Where's the money, where's the money? Take it out quickly. The salary of a dark team captain should be pretty high, right? Spray of flowers glared at the Iceberg Man. Idiot, why aren't you helping? Iceberg Man, I'm no match for him. Fuck. You useless man. Little sweetie, come over. Spray of flowers turned to the brick-moving foreigner. Brick-moving foreigner pondered for a moment. Although I can beat him. I don't dare. Spray of flowers raged, with the captain's backing, what are you afraid of? Also, he's the one who broke the rules first. Brick-moving foreigner glanced at the captain and Feng Xianyi. Are you sure the captain is willing to back us up? Of course, Just as Spray of flowers was about to speak, he lifted his head and saw Nameless Nia and Feng Xianyi deep in discussion. Feng Xianyi leaned against the windowsill behind him. Captain, give me a cigarette. Nameless Nia brought out a cigarette and some matches. He passed one over to Feng Xianyi, placed one between his lips and lit a match. The 2 of them leaned forward and lit their cigarettes. Nameless Nia said, tell me, what's the deal? Feng Xianyi puffed his cigarette then glanced at everyone, surprised. I didn't expect that you guys would find out, TSK, and you guys were faster than I thought. Devotee, find out about what? Spray of flowers, find out. What are you talking about? Brick-moving foreigner, what do you mean? Iceberg Man. The corners of Feng Xianyi's lips twitched a little. Never mind, just pretend I didn't say anything, I shouldn't have overestimated your IQ. The devotee was angered. What do you mean by that? It was rare that Spray of flowers and the devotee were united in their thoughts, and Spray of flowers exclaimed, exactly. Why are you beating around the bush? Feng Xianyi glanced at each of them and asked, since you guys didn't find out anything, why are you with this woman? Spray of flowers said, Miss Yi is our client. Devotee, she hired us to be extras before and this time, we're acting as bodyguards, she pays us really well. Brick-moving foreigner, very generous. Iceberg Man, N. Feng Xianyi turned to Nameless Nia. Captain, are you sure you don't want to recruit a couple more members? Spray of flowers was furious. Damn. Feng Xianyi, you bastard. Why are you trying to come between us again? I'll fight you. Nameless Nia waved and motioned the brick-moving foreigner to move Spray of flowers aside, then he asked Feng Xianyi, what have you found? Chapter 747, burst into tears and fainted in the toilet, there's something fishy about this woman's identity, Feng Xianyi said. Nameless Nia puffed out a smoke ring. She resembles worryless Nya to some degree, but she's definitely not worryless. Spray of Flowers immediately chimed in, never mind that you treat us like fools, but do you really think our captain is dumb? Since when did he ever let any clues slip by? We already checked the identity of this woman. She's the youngest granddaughter of Yi Hong Wei from Yi Group, Yi Wan Wan. There's nothing fishy about her. Feng Xianyi said, I've also investigated and found nothing wrong with her identity. Damn. Why did you say there was something fishy then? There's something wrong with your head, huh? Feng Xianyi looked disapprovingly at Spray of Flowers. Who told you that just because we didn't find anything, there's no problem with her? Spray of Flowers retorted, this is absolutely absurd. If you didn't find anything, it obviously means there's nothing wrong. Captain, don't believe his nonsense, I think he's just lazy. The devotee echoed, that's right, he obviously just wants to eat and drink there for free. Don't try to fool this poor Taoist. The Xi family is wealthy. Captain, look how plump he is now. Nameless Nya looked at Feng Xianyi and muttered, are you sure? Pinching the cigarette between his fingers, Feng Xianyi added, 2 years ago, I followed a clue and investigated country Z, placing the focus on Yi Wan Wan, but just as the captain found, there's nothing wrong with this woman at all. At first, I was about to withdraw, but, Nameless Nya, but what? Feng Xianyi, but lately, I suddenly realized this woman is quite interesting. Spray of Flowers immediately screeched and complained. Damn damn damn. Captain, not only is this fella eating well and slacking off, but he's using the excuse of working to pick up girls. The devotee pondered, is he really picking up girls? Not courting death. Everyone knew about the engagement of worryless Nya and Ji Huang, unless the person didn't want to live anymore, who would actually have the audacity to give Ji Huang a green hat. Ignoring them, Feng Xianyi continued, this woman can fight quite well. Although she's just a little better than those useless dark team guards, she can discover the weaknesses of others with one glance. This is quite interesting. Do you think an ordinary young missy like her could be so skilled and have such great perception that she could even coach the Xi family's dark team? How is this normal? Feng Xianyi spilled the details of his investigation to the 5 of them. None of them said a word. News relating to the Xi family was heavily guarded. If it wasn't for Feng Xianyi telling them about this, none of them would have ever found out that this delicately pretty girl actually possessed such skills. Nameless Nya, with abnormalities, she should be considered a demon. Feng Xianyi smiled. Exactly. Spray of Flowers was unconvinced. She just defeated some trash, right? What's the big deal, devotee? It's not impossible that she received some special training, but saying that she's somewhat related to Big Missy is a little too far-fetched. As they were talking, a message notification came from someone's phone. Grinding the end of his cigarette butt, Feng Xianyi said, in short, do whatever you want. Just don't get in my way. Nameless Nya was silent for a moment, then he glanced at Spray of Flowers and the others. For now, we'll pretend we don't know Feng Xianyi. Don't expose us, especially you, Spray of Flowers, you hear me? Spray of Flowers immediately burst into tears and fainted in the toilet. Captain! How could you be so fierce with me? This bloody stutterer just came back and now you're being so mean to me. You really have an affair with this bloody stutterer, huh? Sob 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 devotee. Stop changing the subject. The main point is the money, the money. Chapter 748, treated as a decoration. Yi Wanwan brought Feng Xianyi, Nameless Nya, and the others downstairs to meet with Shueli and the group of experts. Aside from 11 and Feng Xianyi, Yi Wanwan had 5 new faces with her. With a total of 8 people walking beside her, she seemed quite powerful. When Shueli saw this scene, he knitted his brows. He didn't care for the people Yi Wanwan brought with her and he said directly, Miss Yi, our time is limited for this trip. Let's not waste any more time and head straight for the biggest jade trade store in H City. Director Qin already made arrangements beforehand and got the boss to reserve a batch of top-quality materials for us. The three experts behind Shueli were also Qin Ruoshi's people, and they chimed in, "Miss Yi, you don't have to worry about this trip at all. Director Qin is very familiar with the market in H City and has more experience than us. She's already done quite a bit of research already." "That's right. The goods hand-picked by Director Qin won't lead you astray, you just have to shop accordingly and provide payment." These people sounded very kind, but they were obviously mocking her and treating her like a decoration. Yi Wanwan didn't object. She simply smiled and said, "Sure, let's go and take a look." H City was truly the city of gambling with precious stones in Myanmar. Various shops lined the streets. Present were businessmen from all around the world, to rich bosses to tourists. The street was extremely lively and busy. The so-called gambling with precious stones was a term used in the jewelry industry. When jade was extracted, a layer of weathered skin would be wrapped around it. With the present existing methods, there was no way of determining the quality of the raw stones inside and whether or not there was jade inside at all. The only way to find out would be to cut it open. If high-quality jade was found inside the rock, it was considered a win in the gamble, but if there was nothing inside, it was just a piece of scrap, and this meant the gamble was lost. Currently, the lowest price for a raw stone was below the hundreds, while raw stones with a higher probability of containing a jade could go for up to hundreds of thousands, millions, or even over 100 million. Once the gamble was lost, one could lose an entire family fortune. Of course, if one won, the returns would be at least 100-fold and one would become rich overnight. The precious stone industry was one of the areas the C Corporation dealt with the jade business making up a huge portion. In the jade business, the most crucial part was the purchase of raw stones. For example, not long ago, a competitor of the C family in the precious stone industry acquired a piece of top-quality, glass type of jade through gambling in precious stones. It was invaluable and they shot to fame very quickly, attracting many first-rate clients. Seeing that Yi Wanwan was looking around, a hint of disdain flashed in Shueli's eyes. "Miss Yi, you don't have to look at all these little shops here, many of them are counterfeit. They make fake outer layers and stick a piece of glass inside, then paint it over, pretending that the rocks are weathered. Not to mention their inferior quality. You don't know anything about this industry at all, you'll be cheated easily." With Shueli leading the way, the group of people arrived at the largest jade trade store in H City, Hui Chui Workshop. At the spacious and well-lit hall downstairs, the shelves were stocked with stones of all sizes and many people were holding magnifying glasses and flashlights while examining the stones carefully. The moment Yi Wanwan and the others entered, a sharp-eyed shop assistant stepped forward immediately and welcomed them enthusiastically. "Oh, Mr. Shui, you're here. Quick, come in." Shueli and Qin Ruoshi had been to the store multiple times before, and the shop assistant recognized him instantly. He knew Shueli was working for the top management of C Corporation in Country Z, so he was obviously very attentive towards him. Seeing that Shueli had a very beautiful lady with him this time, the shop assistant couldn't help but stare for a bit. Of course, he didn't want to be nosy and ask about her. Chapter 749, Brutal, please take a seat here. Our boss has been waiting for all of you, so I'll go get him right away. The shop assistant asked someone to make tea while he jogged upstairs to get his boss. Yi Wanwan noticed the devotee's eyes were sparkling from the beginning. "Want to give it a go?" Yi Wanwan laughed. Nameless Nye glanced at the devotee and said sternly, "We prohibit all sorts of gambling." The devotee echoed, "You're joking. How could a graceful and refined person like me be interested in gambling?" Brick-moving foreigner scratched his head and asked, "Aren't we shady people?" Spray of Flowers smiled widely. "Little sweetie, what nonsense are you talking about?" Yi Wanwan burst out in laughter. When it came to trading in precious stones, it was 30% skill and 70% luck. Apart from having experience, luck was also very important. As for her, she probably didn't have either. She only started to cram relevant information into her head recently. She didn't have a drop of luck and this was a brutal business. In order to prevent the 5 of them from goofing around, Yi Wanwan instructed them to have some tea by the side and avoid doing anything without her instructions. After waiting for some time, a man in his 40s or 50s dressed in a brown tang suit walked down the stairs. When he saw Xue Li and the group of experts, the boss of Hui Chui Workshop smiled and cupped his hands. "Mr. Xue, it's been a long time since we last met. You came all the way here, please excuse me for not coming down sooner." Xue Li smiled and said politely, "Boss Ho, we've known each other for some time already. You don't have to be so formal with me." After Xue Li and the group of experts greeted the boss glanced behind Xue Li and asked with a doubtful look, "Where is Miss Qin? Why didn't she come along with you this time?" Xue Li glanced plainly at Yi Wanwan and introduced her to the boss. "For this trip, we have our chairman's assistant with us, Yi Wanwan, Miss Yi. Miss Yi, this is the owner of the biggest store for trading precious stones, Hui Chui Workshop. This is Ho Maofeng or Boss Ho." "Boss Ho." Yi Wanwan greeted him. Ho Maofeng sized Yi Wanwan up and didn't look too happy. "Mr. Xue, I've always worked with Miss Qin, so why was there a sudden change? I've reserved this batch of goods only for the sake of Miss Qin, and even when Boss Huang came over personally to ask for it, I didn't give it to him. Now, you casually brought another person here and want to pick up the goods just like that?" 11 and Feng Xianyi didn't look too happy either when Ho Maofeng suddenly made a fuss. "What does he mean by casually bringing another person here?" 11 said sternly, "Boss Ho, this is the future mistress of the Sea household. Are you saying it's not enough that she came down personally?" Ho Maofeng sat down, held a cup of tea and used the tea lid to lightly brush the tea leaves inside. Then he spoke arrogantly, "I reserved this batch of goods for Miss Qin, I won't allow anyone else to collect it." Future mistress of the household? I've heard about her, and even if she's gotten favor by relying on her looks and coaxing people, how long can she last? How can she compare to the deep and long relations the Qin family has with the Xi family? One of them is the genuine mistress of the household while the other is just a casual lover. How are they the same? Furthermore, the jade trade in Myanmar is my turf. Even the Xi family has to give me face when they show up here. If they want the best raw stones, they can only get them from me. You're tuning in to the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.